Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and this is a 1954 Plymouth Savoy.
Why do you keep getting these old ones?
This is American history.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I need it in my garage.
Think of the things this car has seen.
I can only imagine.
It was back when America was real America.
Opposed to the fake America we have today?
Yeah, pretty much.
It does seem pretty crazy out there. But it's just a few years older than both of us put together.
Yeah, both of us put together. This one's really nice. Let's show everyone how nice it is. It's actually a very good deal.
I guess. He tried to sell this on me because this is my favorite color.
Let's get started.
Okay.
So yes, this is a 1954 Plymouth Savoy, and it came from Nebraska. I actually had the seller deliver it to me, and although initially they were wanting $10,000 for this thing, I got it for $7,000. Now, there's a lot of 54 Chevys and things out there that are in this condition. They go for way higher. These are not as collectible, and I actually moved on this car because of that. It wasn't a whole lot of money, but I got a whole lot of car. We're going to take a look around this thing and let you guys check it out, but one interesting feature about this car that is so cool is 30,000 original miles documented on the title. That's it. It has less miles than your Levante, Mrs. Wizard.
That it does, but it's not a daily driver.
Right, and we're actually fixing something right now we're going to show you guys. So I'm the third owner of this car. It actually came from up near Lincoln, Nebraska area. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. It had been there for a little while, then they dropped the price. I offered an even lower price and they took it. And like I mentioned, these don't have a big craze about them. People aren't crazy about going out there and getting an old Plymouth. They're like, it's not a Chevy, bro. It's not a Cadillac. I don't want that car. But I do. I think it is so cute. Do you like the color, Mrs. Wizard?
I do like the color. I do give you that.
Yeah, I think it's such a cool car. It's awesome. But I told the seller I'll pay you the price if you can deliver it to my shop, which is about a 4-hour drive. I did give him a little bit for gas, but other than that, he said, yeah, no problem. This was actually his dad's car, which was bought back in 2002 or 3. And actually, when the guy was transporting this car to deliver it to my shop, he stopped to get gas not far from here. And someone walked up to him and said, that looks just like my grandfather's car. He bought that new back in '54. It's way up in northern Kansas. And he looked around, he looked inside, and he goes, I'm pretty sure this was his car. Did some checking and found out that indeed there was one owner that was in Kansas, then it was sold and went to Nebraska, and now it's here at Omega with 30,000 original miles on it. It's a really cool story. I'm glad that I got this car. I'm going to keep it on the road, and although I buy and sell cars a lot, I may keep this one. I don't know. We'll have to see, guys, but it is so cool. It just really speaks to me. There's all kind of cars out there you could buy, Supras and 370Zs and all these high Camaros. I don't care about those. This is what really speaks to me. This is so cool. What got me into buying a car like this was the Lark. I drove it around. We're actually getting ready to dive in on some things on it. I just was like, this is so cool. And I found this is equally cool to me. It's just an amazing car. So let's go ahead and look around this car and check it out. So the front kind of looks like a '54 Chevy, Mrs. Wizard.
Yeah, it does. A lot of chrome.
It looks very similar. It has, look, a yacht or a ship or something right there. And there's one up here, a big ship sailing through the water. That was the old Plymouth symbol. I guess they always had that symbol. It's just changed over the years. The paint has some rough spots, but I am not going to sand it and repaint it. There are people that pay thousands of dollars to recreate what this already has, original paint with character. We have had to replace some of the bulbs and some of the things. It is still a 6-volt system, and we'll take a look under the hood here in a minute. As you can see, this is the Savoy model. It has Coker Classic white walls on it, and they are in very good shape. The paint is actually very good on this car. There are some rough spots on the hood and a little bit of surface rust here and there, but nothing serious. Nothing that's disgusting or unsightly. As you can see, if you go down the side, there's no serious dents or cave-ins or cancerous rust. If you look at the roof, it's actually kind of shiny. It's in very good shape. I'm actually amazed for how long this car has been around that it's as in good shape as it is as far as the paint. In the back, we just have simple taillights, nice chrome bumper. This was actually a mid-level Chrysler product, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, but it is not the base level, but it is not the top of the line Belvedere either. So it's the stock exhaust. There is a little dent right here. Someone might have backed into something years ago. As we go down this side, it's the same as the other side, except for there is one more small dent on the front right fender right here. But those to me are all stories of this car. That could have happened 45 or 50 years ago. I don't know. That was a long time ago. I'm probably going to leave that stuff alone. A person could go to work and sand and paint and body fill and make this thing all brand new again. But to me, it kind of loses its story when you do that. I'm going to leave it just like it is, polish it up, wax it to seal in the paint that's there, and just enjoy it. One thing, like I've always mentioned on older cars, is you can tell a lot about the condition of the car by looking in the trunk. This one still has the original old tire, spare. Here's a service manual. This is some of the original like fiber matting that you could lay out here and cover it up. This is all body coating stuff, that's not rust. But if you look up there, there's a kind of a blue material on the back of the seat. So many old cars, that stuff is gone, it's missing. But it's all intact here. You can see there's undercoating or body coating all on the inside of here from when it was new. And there is very minor surface rust there and right there. That's it. Even this mat that's down here is original to the car. So that tells me this car has not been fooled around with. They haven't tried to do weird things in the back. It's just been left alone. And that's what I really, really like about the car. You can also look at the bottom of the trunk lid. The paint is glossy and nice. There's no surface rust in there from condensation or sitting somewhere it shouldn't be for a long time. Let's go ahead and head up front and pop the hood. Wow, these hood struts still work after 50 years. Imagine that. None of that gas-filled garbage, just springs. There's the original Plymouth or Chrysler 218 inline 6. DeSoto actually used this as well. It's actually a very small inline 6. There are 4 cylinders today that take up the same footprint as this engine, but this one's 6. They're small diameter, but they're very long stroke. This is not a high revving engine. Red line is right around 3,800 or 4,000, somewhere around there. You don't rev these engines very high. They're just torquey little motors. This engine has 100 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 7 years. It is not a powerhouse, it's not powerful, it's not meant to be.
No speeding tickets for the wizard.
No, but it does have roughly 180 pound-feet of torque, so you can let the clutch out on this thing without really having to rev it, and it just goes. One thing you can notice, you see 2 Optima batteries here. The original 6-volt batteries, which this still has the 6-volt system, would be a big, large, kind of a golf cart looking battery. So I ordered an Optima as an upgrade. It has the same amount of power as a golf cart battery or 6-volt battery in this tiny little package. And to me it looked kind of goofy just having one single battery there that's so small. I said these things, it sounds like they're barely starting even when they were brand new. Why not just put 2 in parallel? Now I have 2,000 amps of cranking power, and I went with double-aught gauge heavy-duty welding cable wires. So here's our oil filter. It has a canister style oil filter in it. There's our ignition coil, which I've converted to Pertronics. There's also a Pertronix igniter inside of the distributor cap, so it's full electronic ignition, 6-volt system, positive ground. I also converted it to a 6-volt positive ground alternator. That is not a 12-volt alternator, it's 6 volts. So that way, even at low RPM, I have full power coming out of it. The old generator was 50 years old, and it's just a matter of time before it would have failed. By putting the alternator in, I no longer actually need the voltage regulator. It just sits there disconnected. It's not used anymore, but it still looks stock. This tube here is the steering column. It does not have power steering. And you can see it's 3 on the tree shifting, and those are the shift levers. So here we have the original 6-volt Autolite horns. And you would think they would be kind of puny. They are actually extremely loud. They're like, wah, wah. They're loud as can be. And look, a heater core that you don't have to pull the dash out and spend $2,000 replacing it. It's right here. You just undo this little box and replace the heater core inside. Very easy to do. It does have 2 blower motors. There's one out here that does the heat. There's a separate one in there for defrost. It actually has, instead of switching between floor, vent, and defrost, they just used different blower motors. That's the way they did it then. We put new hoses and everything because the old ones were just old. They still work. They didn't leak, but I didn't want to chance it. I am going to keep the oil bath air filter. I'll just service it and keep fresh oil in it. And it has a ball and ball, 1 barrel air cleaner. Very, very tiny. So there was multiple transmissions with this model. There was the standard 3-speed, which is what this is. Then there was a 3-speed with overdrive. Then there was one called the high drive, which is kind of a mix of an automatic and a manual. And it had a little bit bigger engine. I think it was a 230, which 110 horsepower. And then there was the automatic 2-speed, which also I think got the 230. Either the high drive or the automatic, one of them got the 230 inline 6. Now I've driven this thing several times. Everything works as it should. It drives as it should, except for one problem. It had this groaning, nasty wheel bearing noise. It's just from sitting with age.
What's your luck to get another car with a wheel bearing problem?
Yeah, it seems like I keep getting wheel bearing problems, but hey, it's better than an engine problem.
That's true.
So we'll take a look at the wheel bearing issue, and then we'll go head into the interior and let Mrs. Wizard show you around. So after doing some inspecting, I found that the driver's side rear wheel bearing was really, really bad. This has a very interesting setup. It's very old style, old technology, and it was really, really hard to get apart. Here is the drum and the hub. We actually had to remove the hub from the drum to get this stuff apart because it was so seized up. But there is no wheel bearings here on the hub. This is the axle shaft. The bearing actually goes right here. And your wheel is on a tapered shaft. It just like that. This right here, to get these two apart, was very, very difficult. I had a very heavy duty puller, and it actually destroyed one of the hubs. It pulled the complete threads out of the hubs. It was so stuck. The reason why it was so stuck is because this thing has 30,000 miles. I doubt that the hubs or the drums have ever been off in the entire life of this car. So they've been sitting there for 50, 60 years. I actually had to put this in my press. I have a 20-ton press. And I put so much pressure on it that I could see the I-beam that goes across the top was actually starting to bow. It was bowing. And it would get that much pressure before it was like a gun went off. It was like, pow! And this thing finally comes off. I've never seen something that tight before. So we got that all apart. We did also use our puller and tried heat, a torch. It needed all 20 tons of pressure to get it apart. Here's our old wheel bearing, and you can hear how bad it is. I'll show you. Look at the bottom of that race. It's all chewed up. It looks like it's almost melted. It should be quiet like this and be a nice shiny race, clean. I don't know how long that would have went before it locked up. It was getting pretty bad. I just said, okay, I gotta fix this. I'm not gonna drive it anymore. And we had Junior Man actually do the work. He's got it all apart. He's doing a very good job. I have new bearings. We'll get it all back together, and that's solved. If that's the worst of my problems with this car, I'll take that any day of the week. Let's go ahead and jump into the interior.
There it is, guys. 30,063 and 7/10 of a mile. It's amazing. This is just classic 1950s interior. Look at the dash. We talk about garage princesses. This little girl has lived in a garage her entire life for this kind of condition. Look at the venting on there. Like there's nothing is broken. It's in fabulous shape. It does have a fun center glove box. And the little door right there is an ashtray. I won't pull that out because it's too far out of reach. But, you know, it does have some nice maintenance schedule there in your glove box in case you need to, you know, make sure what kind of oil you're putting in it or for what temperature. Look at that. It suggests different weights for different times of the year. How cool is that? Go ahead and pop this closed. Those are the original block-off plates because this little girl didn't come with a radio when she was new. Don't know if the wizard... Knowing him, he plans on putting a Bluetooth radio in here someplace, probably hidden nicely, so it's not going to change the overall appearance of the design. Here is that blower motor he was talking about. Not too many options here. We can go cool or warm, off, summer, and winter. So is it a matter of it's getting some of the warm air from the engine during the winter, or is it just trying to get more outdoor air from outside? Obviously, being a 54, no air conditioning. Defrost is on the right-hand side. And the fan, we got a couple of modes there. Off or on. So, no dual climate control in here for the Wizard. So, as you look at the gauges up there, we do have lights and wiper, which is either on or off. So there's no adjusting how fast it goes or anything. And then we do see panel and it's turned a little bit. That's because the Wizard has already got the lights adjusted for up there to the amount that he likes for when he's driving into work. We have a really sexy looking chrome parking brake release right here. And on the door panels, we can exit the car with this one. And this one, we're going manual, no electric windows in this one. Do see a little bit of wear here on the door. And that's got to be because the driver was putting his elbow on that door frame. Otherwise, the panel is all original. Minor staining with just a little bit of time. As we look at the floor, they do have some carpet, modern day Berber carpet down there. That's just so the driver doesn't get the original carpet that's everywhere else in, you know, any disrepair. As we look at the other door panel, great shape. Look at the seats. There is a little bit of staining on them, but that's nothing over time. You know, we wouldn't expect to have anything different. There's no tears, any holes. As we move to the back seat, even in better shape. Door panels, you know, door panels and the back deck, those are two that usually get totally abused in cars. And then the headliner looks fabulous. I just wonder with a little bit of some of the discoloration here, I wonder, and there's a little bit on that side post, if maybe they were a smoker, maybe it's a little bit of smoker discoloration. Doesn't smell that way, but everything is in great shape. Sun visors, perfect, no sagging. No sagging. It is actually really stiff. And as we finish out, here's a lovely sailboat in the middle of our very big steering wheel with a nice horn ring on it. I did forget one thing before we go get this thing started. The Wizard did buy this lovely little thing, and it's really cool because this has such a low ceiling, you can't see the stoplights when you pull up to a red light. So this is magnetic, just magnets down to the metal dash, and this kind of does a refraction to where he can see if the light changes. Isn't that really neat? Anyway, let's go and get it started.
Before I hop in and start the engine, which starts like a charm. It just starts right up. There's really cool history to this car. Again, why I don't want to get it repainted and send it down. These are oil change stickers from way back when. You can't really see it on here, but those are like 1962, 64. And this one down here says December 1st of 1979. Some Glenwood Auto or something like that. These are all oil changes from decades ago. It's really cool. That's it. It usually turns one turn, sometimes two turn, and it fires right up every single time. I thought with the carburetor it'd have a lot more trouble. This thing just starts every single time. Now I do have dual 6-volt batteries. It doesn't necessarily make it spin faster, but it spins at full strong level for a longer amount of time. I'll open this up and I'll rev the engine for you guys. It's like a sewing machine, guys. Smooth. You can't even see the engine moving hardly, except for the ignition coil wire. One thing we're going to not find under here is a bunch of rot and floor pans rusted out. It's actually very nice and clean under here. And another thing we'll find is 5,000 grease zerks, just like we've looked at the Studebaker Lark. This is back in the day when you service your car and you keep it running as long as you can. You don't buy a new car every 2 years. Amazingly, it does have a sway bar, which is pretty cool for 1954. Here's our drum brakes. Everything's been greased up. Junior Mint greased everything. It does have some replacement shocks on it, and it rides really nice. And we'll look at this side. Drum brakes here. Everything looks good. Nice and tight. Here's our oil pan here. You can see it's pretty dry. There's some crusty, greasy stuff just from years and years of being used. It's very old. But up here you can see our alternator. There's our steering gearbox. Again, it does not have power steering. Very simple steering here. Just has one pitman arm and 2 tie rods. That's it. Here's our oil pump, which is actually very interesting. You can repair your oil pump without dropping the oil pan. It's right there. Here's our fuel pump. And move back to here. Here's our clutch cover. Here's our transmission, which is kind of greasy, grimy. It probably needs a few seals here and there on this shift selector here. Here's our speedometer cable, and this is actually the e-brake, which also needs a new seal. This is the rear main seal of the transmission, needs to be replaced. Clean up that band. Here's our exhaust. I don't know if this part is stock, the rest is. The muffler is aftermarket. It has a very interesting U-joint type setup here. It's kind of like a CV shaft. There's no U-joints. Nothing to grease, really. We'll move all the way back to here. Same story back here, no U-joints. This is a third member style of an axle. The differential carrier can actually come out. You don't have to replace the whole axle if the gears go bad or something goes wrong inside of there. Here's these brakes, everything's together on this side. That side you saw we have apart. New shocks in the back. Here's our little fuel tank.
That's quite the trip that the exhaust does.
Yeah, it kind of goes up and over. There's a little pinhole here, just old. I probably won't mess with that too much. Leave it alone. And it has leaf springs in the back. One interesting thing, that I've seen mentioned on forums and things is how the axle's not centered on the leaf spring. It's actually scooted forward. It's kind of interesting the way they did that. But as you can see on the floorboards, someone put some sort of a coating here years and years ago, and they did a very good job to do that because everything is intact. Nothing is rusted through. Nothing is. So we'll go ahead and get this thing back on the ground. We'll get this wheel bearing fixed, and we'll be back on the road, nice and quiet, smooth sailing. Because it does have a ship on it, it does sail. So let's get it down. And one last thing, it has one side mirror. That's the way they were back then. Everything was 2-lane back then. They figured, what are you going to look at over there, the bushes? So you didn't need a mirror over there. But today we do, obviously. I probably will leave it alone. Like I get a lot of things I've said on here, I don't want to leave it stock as much as possible. So if you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to fix this wheel bearing or anything else on this car, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's always cool stuff happening here at Omega. Thanks for watching.